content. But if you do that on the Ethereum, the content is your property. So no one can change it or modify it or delete it. It's your content. Okay. This is very important because like that you cut the middleman. So basically, when we use hosting platform like YouTube to publish a video, we have a middleman. We have YouTube that is this middleman. With Ethereum, this doesn't exist. More important, on the Ethereum platform, we can create a decentralized application. So this decentralized application, they don't have a central authority, but so how they can work? I mean, this decentralized application, they need to obey to some rules. These rules are dictated by smart contract. So a smart contract is a simply program, an informatic program. So it's a computer program. And on this program, you have some condition. If these conditions are satisfied, you can complete some tasks. In other words, you can say that a smart contract is the same thing as a standard contract. The difference is that in a standard contract is enforced by a relationship rule between two individuals. A smart contract is enforced by a computer program, so by some strict rules. Okay. To give you a concrete example, for example, do you know the platform Kickstarter? Yes or no? Okay. Kickstarter is a platform, is a crowdfunding platform where you can post a project and collect some funds. Basically, the users are posting project, collecting some funds from customers to make their project. So what's happening in this platform is that we need to trust, to use it, we need to trust Kickstarter. So the users are confident that Kickstarter, once that they've collected money, it will send the money to the creator. And on the other hand, customers, they are confident that if I pay something to Kickstarter, Kickstarter will give the money for the project. We can do the exactly same thing with a smart contract without using Kickstarter. So basically, we are creating, let's imagine I'm creating a smart contract, and I say that the first condition is that if I reach this amount of money on this smart contract, I can give this money to the creator. On the other way, if I don't reach this money, if I don't reach this amount, this money will be transferred to all the users that participate. That's almost it. So if we do that, if we do this smart contract, we can simply charge money in this smart contract, and automatically, if we reach an amount of money, the smart contract will give this money to the creator for his project. That's it, without using a third party or without using another service. We are confident that the smart contract will work. Smart contracts are, you can apply smart contract to different fields. I mean, crowdfunding is just one. You can use it for voting system. You can use it for supply chain or whatever you want. But so just to give you another example, this is real use cases for a smart contract for gambling. So we can use it even for gambling. So for example, we can bet if France will win the World Cup 2010 or not. So basically, we are creating a smart contract between me and another individual, and I can bet that if France wins, I will receive 100 euros, and if France loses, the other person will receive these 100 euros. So how does it work? Basically, the smart contract, we are charging, let's say, 50 euros each on this smart contract, and if the smart contract will automatically check through the FIFA World Cup site the result. Basically, the smart contract can communicate with another server, with another client, to establish if the result was correct or not. So what's happening once that France win or not the World Cup, the smart contract will automatically send the transaction to the person who won the bet. This is decentralized. We can build a decentralized application, and we can use smart contracts. So everything is fine, works good, but it's not free. So this system works and runs thanks to the Ethers cryptocurrencies. So Ethers is a cryptocurrency that is the fuel of the Ethereum blockchain. So as Bitcoin is a peer-to-peer cryptocurrency, so we don't need third parties to make transactions. And basically, each action, so when we make a transaction, when we want to make to solve a condition contract, we need to charge some ethers. So each condition that we put for the smart contract, they need to be fueled by ethers. And there is a main difference with Bitcoin, that the amount of ethers that we have in circulation is infinite. It means that we don't have 21 million as Bitcoin, but the amount of ethers is completely infinite. We don't have a limited amount of supply. So the smart contracts and the Ethereum blockchain ethers have got some benefits and downsides. They are all linked with the benefits of the blockchain. So we have immutability. So when we write a smart contract, we cannot modify it later. If it's published and it's shared by all the network, we basically we cannot modify it anymore. So we need to be very careful, because this can be also a downside. If we write bad, if the smart contract is written bad and human can make mistakes, we cannot change it anymore. So we need to be very careful when we use smart contracts. Other thing is the tamper-proof. So basically, the apps are based on a network formed around the principle of consensus. So making censorship is impossible. So what does it mean? Is that when we have a system, simply decide that my video doesn't respect their policies, so they can block it. On Ethereum, this is not possible, because I'm the owner of my content. It's secure, so there is no central point of failure, so there are this system of these nodes. These nodes are all connected and they're on the same protocol, so it's completely safe, because if we lose part of those nodes, we don't lose our data, because it's shared on all the computers at the same way. And there is a zero downtime. This is what it means, that apps will never go down, because they cannot be switched off. What are the downsides? So as I said before, if we make mistakes in the code, we might have big problems, big problems, because it's irreversible. And this technology is a new technology and is relatively complex for people. So the people, they still have, it's difficult for them to understand it and to use it, because we don't have so many practical cases, and it's quite difficult to see how it can help us. So why we are unhappy with centralized system or with normal Kickstarter platform. And in reality, there is one way when we can make transaction reversible, and is to have a consensus. So basically, if, I don't know if you know, the DAO was one of the first decentralized autonomous organization that was created on the Ethereum blockchain. And during the DAO, basically, there was a problem in a smart contract. And one guy was able to steal 3.6 million of ethers in 2016. This led to a big problem. So if we see that there is a problem in a smart contract, and after we lose money, but we want this money back, but with a smart contract it's not possible normally. In reality, if we make a consensus and the majority of the people agree that this transaction can be reversible, we can reverse it. So this is against the immutability of the blockchain, so it can be a downside to the benefits. Okay, so now that we pass to, I made a description of Bitcoin, a small description of Bitcoin, and a small description of Ethereum. We can analyze the two cryptocurrencies, both sides. So basically, Bitcoin, it was released on January 3rd, 2009. So Bitcoin was the first cryptocurrencies ever created, and was the cryptocurrencies that generated the blockchain. And it's also different how it was released. Bitcoin was mined in the beginning by Satoshi Nakamoto, and just him. So for the first year, Satoshi Nakamoto started to mine Bitcoin. Ethereum was released with an ICO. So we already created a big amount of Ethereum, that was 60 millions, and we decided to make this initial coin offering, and we delivered this Ethereum to all the people who decided to participate in the ICO of Ethereum. It's a peer-to-peer decentralized payment system, Bitcoin. It's just that. Bitcoin is a payment system, decentralized and peer-to-peer. Ethereum is a decentralized platform that runs smart contracts. So on Ethereum, we can build different apps. This is the difference basically is the purpose. So Bitcoin is a payment system and Ethereum is an apps. So they have a big difference. The coding language that we use with Bitcoin is C++. So C++ is one of the most difficult coding. Instead, Ethereum uses different coding languages, and the main one is Solidity. But basically, you can build also in other type of coding languages, and after you will run this code on the Ethereum network, and Ethereum is able to read it. They both use a mining algorithm that is a proof of work. So the proof of work is the mining procedure that consumes a lot of energy. Ethereum has got a big difference. So Ethereum was created in the beginning to pass from a proof of work to a proof of stake algorithm. The proof of stake is an algorithm where miners are not remunerated based on their computing power, but based on how much Ethereum they stock on their wallet. So today, Ethereum is still on a proof of mining, proof of work concept, but it might be that later this year we will pass to a proof of stake, to a complete proof of stake. We have a limited supply for Bitcoin, that is 21 millions, and we have an unlimited supply for Ethereum. And the halving, that is the procedure on which we can diminish the amount of currency that we are producing through the mining, is for Bitcoin is each 210,000 blocks, that is around around 4 years. And in Ethereum, we have no halving. So today we are producing 3 Ethereum each 14 seconds. That is the time per block. And this doesn't halve. It will be always 3 Ethereum. Just if there is a consensus to change this protocol, we can halve it or augment it. And the block time, so for Bitcoin is 10 minutes. And for Ethereum, as I said, is 14 seconds. So it's pretty faster. So these were the 2 cryptocurrencies. Now we have a lot of time for questions. So if you want, you can just give me your question. If someone has got some question. Yeah.
What could be the advantages or disadvantages that in Bitcoin we have this halving thing, that it's a limited amount of Bitcoins, and in Ethereum we will have,
infinite supply.
Yeah.
So basically, Bitcoin, they decided to do that because it's rare. So what is one of the features of Bitcoin is the rarity. So we have a fixed amount. We have 21 million of Bitcoin, and that it can increase in value. But this thing is, we always say that Bitcoin is against inflation because it's a deflationistic money, right? Because we have a fixed amount of Bitcoin that we have, but deflation is not good. If we have a future, we had in the gold standard, before we were using gold standard in our economic system, we saw that if we need more money in the system, we can't because we have a fixed amount. So Bitcoin is against the inflation, but is a deflationistic currency. With Ethereum, we don't have this problem. So it's as our system, but we think in the future in a world where we can use just cryptocurrencies, for example, Bitcoin and Ethereum, these 2 systems can be compatible because we have a currencies that is rare like Bitcoin and other currencies where we can build other things and we can use an infinite amount of Ethereum. I think that it's just a characteristic of the 2 currencies. So Bitcoin, they decided to do that because it was against the inflation, and Ethereum, they decided to not put a fixed amount because it's not useful for the Ethereum platform. Okay. It's simple as that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is the source code open? That is, can anybody check the source code?
Yeah, for both of the currencies, we have an open source platform. So you can check the code of Ethereum or Bitcoin on GitHub, for example, and verify it if it's working or not. The same thing for all the smart contracts. So each smart contract can be verified to anyone. That's why it's very important to verify before to use a smart contract, because like that we can, we can be sure that what it's written is good. The problem of this is that how many people are able to check a smart contract. I'm not able personally, so if I see a smart contract, I simply cannot judge if it's good or not. So this is another downside of Ethereum, that it's complex at the moment, and not anyone can use it. So we need, in the future, we would need some experts, some legal experts, for example, that are also formed in IT to check and read the smart contracts. So yeah, but it's open source, as you said.
And conversely, can any smart contract designer could build the proprietary code and protect it with a patent?
Sorry, I didn't get the question.
Can a company create a smart contract
that
will be protected by a patent?
That's a good question. I imagine so. I mean, in the future, because today legally, I think it's a bit taboo. We still don't know what are if a smart contract is legal or not. Because as we saw in the DAO, for example, when a lot of people lost a lot of money, we couldn't go to the police and simply, hey, I lost this money. I participated in this smart contract and it was a fraud or whatever. So we don't know. But in the future, we might see that a company publishes a smart contract with a patent, and so just the company can use it. But it would be not on the Ethereum platform, but on a proper blockchain, on a private blockchain, because Ethereum is a decentralized platform. So I don't think we can have this. But on other blockchain, yes. Yeah.
Are there any user tools that you can use to program a smart contract without being a developer that is trained in that specific language? Or is it only for developers?
I think it's only for developers. I don't think it's, so it's not as difficult as Bitcoin. So programmers of Bitcoin, they need to develop the code in C++. C++ is quite tough to learn. But if you have some notion of informatics and you want to learn programming, Solidity and JavaScript, they are not so complicated. So if you want to create a base smart contract, for example, to create your own token, it's not so difficult. You have even a tutorial on YouTube or on the internet. You can just check how to create a smart contract, how to create my currency, my own token. And it's not so many lines of code. So I think you can do it if you know, I mean, what you're doing.
Is that the real use case?
Or
to create an ICO?
No. You can use smart contracts for, as I said, a bet or a voting system.
But it's only for developers that know how to.
Yeah. So yeah, I think if you don't have notions of at least a bit, I think it's quite tough. But
so
I mean, you can do it.
People are just using it as a currency.
So they're using either as a currency to make speculation or investment, but it's not the purpose. So you have thousands of companies that are building their own application on Ethereum, and Ethereum has got an internet browser. So if you download the internet browser of Ethereum, you can see decentralized application, and use them with a smart contract. Is like that. Just the people, they still don't see the utility to do this because it's hard. It's hard. I mean, we are happy with the services that we use. Sometimes not, but. I think it's like that. Yeah.
Could you come back about what you said about smart contract?
Yeah, sure.
My question is exactly about how.
This one or the one before?
When it's written, how do you on the blockchain? How do you record on the Ethereum platform?
Yeah.
And how do you call the hacker?
So how do you call hacker? When you build a smart contract, you're just simply building a. And after, you can execute this smart contract on the Ethereum virtual machine. So the Ethereum virtual machine is this software that is connected on all the nodes and is running the smart contracts. Basically, what it is taking the information from the smart contract and is changing to bytecode, that is numbers 010101, and is making this readable for all the machines. So this answers partially to your question. So what did you mean? I don't understand.
As soon as you write the smart
contract,
it's okay.
Yeah.
But when it's written, what do you do with that? Do you hash that?
Do you?
Hash?
No. You just write a smart contract and you publish it on the Ethereum platform. After it's there, you can go to etherscan.io, and you can check smart contracts there. So you have the condition, and you can read them and you can analyze them. That's how you verify and publish a smart contract. That's all. Yeah.
Given that the limit is 14 transactions per second, you
For-
scale?
14 transactions. No, it's each 14 seconds we produce a new Ethereum.
Oh, okay, and what is the amount of transactions per second?
On Ethereum, I think it's per second. It's very, very low. I think it's like I don't know, but the problem you are speaking about scalability.
Yeah, what's the scaling solution?
So, scalability is a big problem. They were talking a few weeks ago about sharding. So basically, the problem of Ethereum is that each node, each computer has got to execute each smart contract every time on the network. So this is a big amount, so it's not scalable. What they want to do is a procedure called sharding. So sharding is this possibility to, let's say I'm a node, I'm running the Ethereum platform, and I don't want to verify all the transactions, all the smart contracts that are on the network. So what I'm doing is that I'm taking just partial transaction, another node is doing other partial transaction, and so on and so on. Like that, I can reduce the amount of transaction or smart contracts that I need to check to make this faster. But this is just an improvement, and they are talking about this, but we don't know if they will implement it or not. So scalability is the problem for both of the currencies, Bitcoin and Ethereum. So both of them, they cannot compete with Visa or MasterCard. They perform 45,000 transactions per second against 30,000 transactions per day on Bitcoin. That's a big problem, but yeah. So for example, if tomorrow 1 billion people will start to use Bitcoin, it will not work, simply because the block in the blockchain, they have a limited amount of memory, so this is 1 megabyte, and if 1 billion people start to make transaction, or just if all the United States make one transaction per day, it will not work.
Yeah, that's why the Lightning Network.
Yeah, yeah. And the same, you have a same thing. I mean, off-chain, you have transaction off-chain also on Ethereum. They are working on that. So they are all projects.
Are they copying the same concept of the Lightning Network?
I don't think they are copying it. They are making their own off-chain side. I mean, off-chain is something that it exists already. They are trying to implement it in a big scale.
And actually, what's the block size?
For Ethereum, I think it's the same, 1 megabyte, or
1 megabyte.
I'm not sure about that, so I don't
Like
want to
Bitcoin.
say. Yeah, it might be. I'm not sure.
Another question. Given that Bitcoin is limited to 21 million,
Yeah.
I learned that it's fractionable down to 8 decimals.
Yeah.
On the other side, what would be the maximum value that could reach a Bitcoin by structure?
So if you consider that, so one Bitcoin, so if you consider one unit, the small unit of, I think it's 21,000 trillions, something like that, because if you have 8 decimals, it means that you have, the minimum unit is 0.70 and 1 Bitcoin, and if you multiply this number, I mean, if you make this...
So it's seven beyond the comma? Or
yeah.
It's 8 beyond the comma?
8 beyond the comma, so you have 70 and a 1, okay? So this is the minimum unit of 1 Bitcoin. And if you multiply, so this is, to make 1 Bitcoin, you need 100 millions of Satoshi. That is the minimal unit of a Bitcoin. So if you have 100 million of Satoshi for 1 Bitcoin, you need to multiply 100 million of Satoshi for 21 million of Bitcoin, and you will get the maximum amount of Bitcoin divisible for users. So you have 100 millions times 21 million. So this is 21 million with 12 zero after.
Yeah, that's the market cap. But
No, that's the amount of Bitcoin that we will have maximum, and we can divide. You understand what I mean?
Yeah, but 1 Bitcoin.
How much it can reach?
You're saying that 1 Bitcoin could reach the value of 900?
No. I'm not saying anything about the values of a Bitcoin in euros, because it's simply we cannot possibly know how 1 Bitcoin will be worth in 10 years. We don't know even if it will exist in 20 years. I mean, we don't know how much it can reach. It can reach 1 million, it can reach 1 euro, it can reach 12 million. I have no idea. I mean, we cannot know.
But the structure, the structure is defined of the Bitcoin. You cannot change the structure of the Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So the maximum amount of value that
in euros,
the Bitcoin, for example, in euros or in dollars.
I don't think you can answer. You cannot answer to this question, because, for example, in 2013, everyone was shocked that Bitcoin reached $1,000, and in 2017 it reached 20,000. So in 2 years it can be at 200,000 or at €1. I mean, you don't have a maximum amount. You can be. I think it can be even a number that we don't know. We don't know how much it can be worth a Bitcoin in 10 years, 20 years, or 30 years. It's not really possible to know. You can forecast something, but it will not. I mean, you really cannot know it. If someone knows, please tell me, because I might buy a bunch of those. But yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
When you're saying that the Bitcoin
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Bitcoin is a money transfer service,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Can you compare it to the old to the centralized payment service, to the current centralized payment service as PayPal, for example? Can you compare it to Bitcoin?
Bitcoin and PayPal? Yeah, you can compare it for sure.
Is the decentralized version
Of PayPal, yes, of course. And what are the main differences between Bitcoin and PayPal? So, for example, let's say tomorrow PayPal it decides to add a 5% commission on your transaction. You can simply do anything to refuse it. If you want to use PayPal, you need to accept this change in the system. Bitcoin, if you have a change like that, it's chosen by a consensus. So if the majority of the accept that Bitcoin needs to have a 5% more commission on their transaction, they can do it instead of having mining fees per transaction. So yes, of course, you can compare Bitcoin to PayPal. Actually, Bitcoin is a decentralized PayPal. It's totally the same. The difference is that with PayPal, you have a company and you have a firm that is deciding for the services and for how much you need to pay for those services.
Okay. And people who are miners, for example.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I lost I don't have battery on my phone, so I lost the presentation. Est-ce que tu as un chargeur là? Yeah, sure. You need the...
No, I don't need the
okay.
And all the people contributing to the Bitcoin transaction,
Yeah.
making it safer,
Yeah.
making it, are rewarded by Bitcoins.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
The Bitcoin protocol.
Yeah, so that's it. I mean, when you make a transaction, so Bitcoin, one feature is that it's not for free. So when we make a transaction, it's cheap, but it's not for free. So you have mining fees. These fees are a fees that rewards the miners to confirm my transaction. So basically, I'm giving you 1 Bitcoin, and I'm paying 0.00001 Bitcoin to make this transaction. Actually, the mining fees today for Bitcoin are between 6 and 10 cents, and for Ethereum are between 50 and 60 cents. So Ethereum is more expensive, but the problem is that with Bitcoin, we saw in December that these mining fees, they're not fixed. So if I want to pay more for my transaction, I can simply charge more fees. And this is worthy because if, let's say, today the fees are 10 cents, and I decide to put one of €1. So a miner has got an incentive to my transaction passed before because it will gain more because they decide to remunerate a miner €1 instead all the other transactions are 10 cents. What's happening if we have a lot of transactions on the Bitcoin network? Basically, everyone is increasing the mining fees, and they will increase and they will increase. So we pass maybe from 10 cents to €1, but someone wants to be faster, so he puts €2, and so everyone put €2. And in December, we arrived at €40 per transaction. It doesn't matter how many Bitcoins you want to send, but if you want to pay 1 coffee in December, you need to pay also €40 for mining fees. And so that's the problem of scalability. And with Ethereum, they were not so expensive as that. Yeah.
What about the Lightning Network, and is
Yeah.
it like bringing some value to accelerating this transaction?
Yeah, of course. The Lightning Network, basically what it is, with the Lightning Network, we can create some channels between users, and we will make transaction of the main blockchain. So basically what I'm doing, we can decide, me and you, to exchange 1 Bitcoin for a limited amount of time, for let's say 1 month. And let's say we put this Bitcoin in this off chain. So I can send you this Bitcoin, you can send me back with 0 fees. And when we close the channel, the blockchain will register the last amount that we have. So for example, if we decided to 1 Bitcoin, I have 0.5 at the end, you have 0.5. Even if we made 1,000 transactions between each other, when we close the channel, the blockchain will register just the last amount of Bitcoin that we have. So I have 0.5 and you have 0.5. So this, it helps a lot the scalability, because basically if the blockchain doesn't have to register all the transactions that we made in this month, we have lots of transactions less in the blockchain. So we can make more transactions and make thousands of transactions off-chain that are registered later on the network. So of course it can improve the scalability. And well, yeah, sure.
You say that the Ethereum blockchain was designed to switch from
proof of mind,
to
yeah.
proof of stake. In your opinion, what are the consequences for miners?
Yeah, for miners, you will always an incentive to mine, because anyway, sorry, let's turn it back. So the difference is that with proof of work, mining can be sometimes centralized. So why? Because mining equipment is expensive. So for example, Bitcoin, mining now is not decentralized anymore. It starts to be more and more centralized, because we cannot mine anymore with GPUs. We need to buy ASICs or graphic cards that are very expensive. So not anyone can afford it. And if we pass through a proof of stake, we don't need to buy mining equipment. We just need to buy ethers to be a miner. So mining will become more and more decentralized. There is always one problem, is that if someone has got a big amount of Ethereum, it will mine more, of course. But I think it's more decentralized than the proof of work system. So the advantage is that mining will become more decentralized than what is it in proof of work. Simply because accessing to ethers is simpler than buying mining equipment. Yeah.
Do you have any stats on the distribution of?
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
What amounts? Or?
No. So I know that.
Would you consider it's distributed enough?
So I know that the Ethereum Foundation, for example, has got 12 million of Ethereum. It's a big amount of Ethereum. It's actually almost.
So it's also quite centralized.
Yeah, but 12 million is not. I mean, to be centralized, you need someone that's got 40%, 45. 12, I don't know how much is, like, you have 12 million on 90 million of ethers, so you have, say, 15% of the Ethereum, the ethers that are in the hand of the Ethereum Foundation. So it's a big amount. What I think also is that the Ethereum Foundation doesn't have an interest to make a centralized system. If not, they would go against themselves. And if they go against themselves, they will not simply make the system work. So people will be upset and will start to move on other currencies. So I think if these currencies are in the hand of the Ethereum Foundation, it's fine. Also, to consider is that the main difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum is that with Bitcoin, Satoshi Nakamoto, we don't know who it is. We don't know if it's an organization, if it's a person. It doesn't matter because the system works. With Ethereum, it's different. We have Vitalik Buterin, and he's the creator. I mean, he has got not power. He doesn't have power, but he can influence people. That's for sure. But even him, he doesn't have created for.
But we could set a point of failure, maybe.
A central point of failure? No, I don't think it has a central point of failure.
No, not a central point, but maybe a big vulnerability.
It's more vulnerable, of course, but it's an advantage because Bitcoin is working by itself. So the community is working to make Bitcoin works. Ethereum has got a leader, and he can, if he has to make a decision maybe or make a proposal, he can propose it, and of course he has got an influence, but if the choice is good, it can be good. But if he decides to act bad, of course, if he decides to act bad, that can be a problem. That's one of the difference. Yeah?
There is some thought about Bitcoin will be the same with Ethereum?
Sorry?
It's some fork about Bitcoin, like Bitcoin Gold or something?
On Ethereum, so there was just one fork on Ethereum, and it was Ethereum Classic fork. So in August 2016, as I said before, there was this decentralized autonomous organization. So just to make a statement on decentralized autonomous organization, these organizations are decentralized and are ruled by a set of smart contracts. What was happening is that they were making an ICO, so basically a lot of French people actually, they were doing this ICO and they were sending ethers to these decentralized autonomous organization. One guy discovered a bug, the smart contract, and he basically started to steal these Ethereum, these ethers, and move them to another decentralized autonomous organization called the Child DAO. And when people started to see it, they were upset, and so they started to propose to recover all the ethers. So there were a consensus, so more than 95% of the people decided that they wanted back their ethers, but a small part of the community didn't want this to happen because they said, okay, we made a mistake. Mistakes are part of life. We lost some ethers, but it's like that. We cannot make transaction reversible. If not, it's against the immutability of blockchain. This community decided to create Ether Classic, that is the other Ethereum currencies. And basically, in the blockchain, in the history of Ether Classic, there is this hack. So basically, we can see that there are some ethers that are lost. In the Ethereum, ETH, not see it because they decide to make it reversible. So for all the people that lost their ethers, they could reclaim them by another smart contract, and that was all. So there is just one fork in the Ethereum blockchain that was Ethereum Classic. After you have, sorry?
Byzantium fork?
Yeah, this is not, it's an art fork where you are not creating a cryptocurrency, so it's just like an upgrade. So you are upgrading the system, so it's mandatory. You cannot choose to not use Byzantium or Constantinople that are the version of Ethereum. Yeah.
So could we say that Ethereum Classic is the exact same thing as Ethereum, except with respect to immutability?
It's okay. Even Ethereum is not mutable. I mean, even in Ethereum Classic, if you want to make something like that, you can. You just need to make a consensus. People, if decide to that, you can make it. Ethereum Classic, Ethereum Classic. What we can say is that it is the original Ethereum, is the original version, and they decided to keep the transaction history with this hack. In Ethereum, ETH, it's not.
The rest is exactly the same. You can.
Yeah, you can build smart contracts. You can be you can totally use the same thing as Ethereum. After, it's not the same as now because as Ethereum now because Ethereum made some upgrades. So some version, and Ethereum Classic did its own project. Okay. So we can say that we have one Ethereum. At one point there was an hack, and at this moment we split. So from that moment they have their own history, but before they were totally the same thing.
And what would you say are the main differences now?
With Ethereum, Ethereum Classic? I think with Ethereum Classic, create smart contracts is quite hard. You had some problems because they didn't want to fix, I mean, when they decided to fix the bug with the DAO attack, they improved the protocol. So making a smart contract weak, it was more difficult. With Ethereum Classic, build smart contract was always difficult. That's why they create another blockchain that is called Callisto, not a long time ago, to create better smart contracts for the Ethereum Classic blockchain. Yeah.
We've been speaking about cryptocurrencies based on the blockchain protocol, but there are others, and I think they're called tokens. But these one are not based on the blockchain protocol.
Yeah.
And what's a token?
So
I think when you create a project,
you
can create
your own token. Yeah.
But it's not like a share.
So exactly. So as I said, with Ethereum, you can build a decentralized application. This decentralized application can be tokens. So for example, I have my own company, and making your own blockchain is quite difficult. I mean, you need to have thousands of computers together that are connected. It's expensive. Ethereum is giving the possibility to other companies to create their own blockchain company without creating a blockchain. So you are relying on the Ethereum blockchain. So basically, I'm a company. I want to use blockchain services, but I don't have the money and the time to create my own blockchain. What I'm doing, I'm creating a smart contract on Ethereum. I'm collecting money with an ICO, and I'm distributing my own token. And I'm using the Ethereum blockchain to do this.
Yeah, but the advantage of it is to raise money
Yeah.
to the company.
Yeah. and use a block.
Just to use the decentralized system.
It's both of them. I mean, you are using a decentralized system that is a decentralized platform that is Ethereum. And the advantage of doing this is that I'm able to collect money from thousands of people to make my own project. It's like that. We are always speaking about the advantages of blockchain. So why I need to do that? Why I can do that? Because I can collect money from thousands of people. And I don't have to pass through venture capitalists, for example, where I need to convince one person or a 5 person to give me 500 million US dollars. I don't know. With blockchain, with Ethereum, I can open my project to all the world, and people can just contributing 100 euros, 200 euros to my project to collect a lot of money.
So it's before the launch of your decentralized
Yeah.
company based
Yeah.
on Ethereum,
Yeah.
you can raise money.
Yeah, that's what you do.
This is the tokens. You
Yeah.
give tokens to
Yeah,
someone,
that's what
and
you
in
do.
exchange it gives you money.
Exactly.
This is not like cash. You cannot buy a computer or anything.
No, of course. So basically what it's doing with companies, so basically in 2017, ICOs collect more than 6 billion US dollars. It was a lot of more than venture capitalist funding. So what's the advantage? I'm creating my own company. I'm collecting Ethers or Bitcoin, and I'm giving a token. This can be a token that you can use. I mean, just wait. You need to, when you create a token, you create something that is useful. I'm not just a restaurant and I'm making an ICO because I want to make an ICO. No, I'm creating a project that is useful to do with blockchain. I mean,
As long as it's trusted by people.
yeah, but I mean, so if you're a restaurant, for example, what's useful to make an ICO for a restaurant? I mean, yeah, but okay. Of course, you can raise money, but after your project will start to fail. I mean, in 2017, there were a lot of people that started to do ICOs like that from nothing because it was so easy to collect money. They say, okay, let's collect money. So you had scams. You have people that stole this money from thousands of investors. So that's why you need to be very careful. Of course, this was the greatest thing that could happen for startups because collecting money from venture capitalists is quite hard. And with ICO, it's not. So, I mean, it's cool. On the other hand, if you participate in an ICO that is a scam, you will lose your money. And you cannot do anything to recover it, to take it back.
Would you say the majority of ICOs are just looking for the money and
Yeah,
not have
I would say that. If we look at the data, I think that more than 60% or 70% of ICO of 2017 were either a scam, either they weren't able to complete their project. So it's you need to be careful. But there were ICO that were super good.
But even right, and there are even ICOs that might not be fraudulent, but they might fail.
Of course, it's a project. I mean, it's the same thing as a project. Even in venture capitalists, I mean, when people invest in startups, not with ICOs, it's a risk. I'd say that there are, I think 90% of the startups that open each year, they fail, and just 10% they are very good startups that raise money. I mean, it's the same thing as venture capitalists. It's not just with ICOs. Projects fail. I mean, we have more projects that fail than projects that they succeed, because if not, we will have thousands and thousands of companies. Yeah.
So let's say you're making a company with the blockchain and you are making your ICO.
Yeah.
And me want to invest on it. So
Yeah.
I buy tokens. What's the relation? How if your company starts to do very well, how will I benefit from it?
Okay. You have different type of tokens. So you have utility tokens that are tokens that you can use them on the platform. For example, I'm making my own company. I'm delivering my own token because this token, you can use it in my platform. So basically, you don't have a concrete relation between the price of the token and how the company is performed. But if the company is performing good, it means that a lot of people have the token and they are using it. If a lot of people are using this token, it can increase in value. But be careful, because in ICOs, we still have a speculative side that is big. I mean, a lot of people, they are not even caring about what a company is doing. They just want to buy cheap a token to sell it good. And this is what we saw in 2017. People were participating in ICO because they were sure that in 2 months or 3 months, they could multiply by 10 their investment. So this is a bad thing for the startup because they see that their company tokens value, like it's too volatile, you know. You get times 10 after it goes down. It's not good, you know. So you need to be very careful with this.
Yeah, it's not like buying assets from.
You're not buying you're not the owner of the company.
Yes,
when
yes,
you have a token. The main difference. Yeah, exactly. The main difference between a token and an action is that when you have a stock, you partially own the company. With a token, this is not happening, and this has got advantages and negative sides. Because for a company, it's good. I'm collecting, giving away my ownership. So I'm a company. I'm a small startup. Why give, I don't know, 40% of my company away to a venture capitalist because he's giving me money? It's my company. I'm just asking him money. With an ICO, I can collect money and don't give away the ownership. At the same way, for the user, it's good because he's just buying a token. Not a stock. It's not too much related on the company value, so I can make some money without even owning the company and sell it easily. I mean, it's faster.
But
So you have, yeah.
You cannot expand your business and do your business with the money you raise from.
Of course you can. You can. For example, I'm an ICO. I'm collecting 1,000 ethers, and to make something, I can sell the ethers, get my money, and make my business. And it's what actually ICOs are doing, because when you have some ethers or Bitcoin, there is at some point you need to sell them and get euros, or you can use ether directly, but you can do that. But if you cannot, you need to sell this money and collect euros and use the euros.
But
because
nothing happens with the token you sold. I mean, you sold the token, in exchange you receive the Bitcoin or Ethereum.
Yeah.
And then you sell it. But it doesn't change anything on the token.
On the token, no, nothing at all, nothing at all.
The token's value depends on your project. If
Yeah,
it's booming,
on my project and on speculation, because let's imagine after my token will start to be exchanged on some market. So, for example, Bittrex, Bitfinex, Binance, whatever you want. So, at that moment, if there are a lot of people that are buying my token, the token is increasing while my company is doing nothing. You know, can happen. Yeah. Just a second.
So if I presume using ICO is more riskable for contributors than for startups?
Yeah, I'd say that.
There are no risk
For the yeah, I wouldn't say that there are no risk. I mean, but if your smart contract is not good, you can be hacked. You can. I mean, it's still a big risk for your company. It's not. It's easier for sure to collect money. This for sure, but it's not. There is no risk. There is always some risk. Yeah.
Okay, you said that when you have like a token, it's not, you don't have like the ownership of the company.
Yeah.
But for example, you have Aragon. If you okay, they did the ICO and then they put like their you know the blockchain system, and you can go and vote about whatever you want to do. The second thing is lately, if you know Silicon Valley TV show. Okay, so they did like an ICO.
Okay.
So after they had like 51% of their users, of the holders of the token, are like just outsiders. They may run orders on the company.
Okay.
Like they may be the like owners of the company because they are most.
They would be able to decide. Okay.
Does this happen with ICO? So, for example, I will have
token
more than the founder.
Not with ICOs. You don't have with ICOs. You don't have ownership of the company, but there are other type of ICOs that are called DICO. This is a new type of decentralized autonomous organization that is working with ICO. And basically, in this case, you have users, so participators that are giving ethers or Bitcoin, and in exchange, they have an ownership of the company. Not ownership, but they have the power to decide. So basically, what's happening is that you have contributors, and the funds, when they are collected, they are in a pool, let's say. And these funds are released to the developers when the contributors want. So basically, the contributors are deciding that the developers can be paid more. Okay, I will just release some funds, not all, just a part. And this is powered by consensus always. So this is a type of ICO that you have, where you can the job that yeah.
Token. Basically, you like a project and you think that this project might work, and you want to get a token that you can use on the platform. So you can buy the token, and after you use it, instead of waiting that it's increasing value, no, I decided to pay, I don't know, 1,000 euros, and I want to use 1,000 euros on this platform because it's giving me a service. For example, it can be a retail platform, a supply chain, home delivery, food, I don't know, whatever. So you can decide to use the token for what it is made for. This is a thing. You're not, it's not mandatory to make speculation. You have utility token, but the point is that when you can use this token maybe after a lot of time, because the platform needs to be built and you need to have this platform. So when you participate in an ICO, or you will not have the possibility to use the token until the ICO is completed and you have a platform. For example, I participated in an ICO that was called Monaco, and they were delivering this token to have a credit card that was working with cryptocurrencies. I did it in July 2017, and I'm still waiting my card, and I'm just stocking this token, but I mean, I'm not happy about that, because I participated in that. Their roadmap was very precisely, they were saying that in the end of 2017, they would have started to deliver the credit cards, and I never received it, so I'm trying to get it.
Was it better to buy the tokens after the ICO?
Yeah, but the point of making an ICO is that you can buy it cheap. So when you make an ICO, you have bonus and discounts. So basically, when I participated in this ICO, I have 20% discount. But
if the token fails,
yeah, of course, it's a risk. I'm not saying that it's not a risk. It's, you accept the risk when you make an ICO. Yeah.
Can I create a market token without being on an exchange?
You can create a market for a token without being an exchange. That's your question.
Yeah, because of an exchange, the exchange decide to take the token or not.
Yeah. Normally.
Before that, maybe you get a marketplace.
There is one marketplace actually that is an ICO. It's Bancor. Bancor. It's a platform where you can exchange tokens that are not listed on any platform. Good thing, because as you said, when we participate in an ICO, we don't know if the token will be listed or not on a marketplace. So if it's not listed, we cannot exchange it anymore. So I have my token, maybe it doesn't have value, so how can I take my investment back? I'm using Bancor. So you have already a platform, a decentralized platform on the Ethereum network that is making possible the exchange of tokens that are not listed on any other platform. And so you have this Bancor network that is an exchange.
Is it a variation of price?
Yeah, of course.
The
ICO are always done with token?
No.
Any kind of
No, you can make an ICO on, if you create your own blockchain, for example, I don't have anything in mind, but it's not mandatory that are on Ethereum. The majority of ICOs are for sure on the Ethereum network because it's easier to build a token on the Ethereum platform than to create a blockchain alone. Yeah.
Can you raise money through an ICO that would be denominated in fiat currency?
If you want to collect money directly in fiat, I think you can. For example, I think there were some ICOs where you have always the possibility to pay in Bitcoin, Ethers, or fiat. There were not a lot, and I don't think you can do it just with fiat currencies because at that point it's not it's not an ICO, but it's a crowdfunding, just a normal crowdfunding, and you can deliver a token with a crowdfunding, but it's not an ICO. Because the point of ICO is that when you give fiat currencies, you're not using a smart contract. Because I cannot send euros to a smart contract. You see, like when you create an ICO, you have a smart contract. You are sending ethers to this smart contract, not to the company, and the smart contract automatically sends you back the value of the token that is.
I had a question about this escrow functionality. Is it specifically code written in the to describe,
yeah.
or is it embedded in the blockchain protocol?
Is in the smart contract. For example, I'm saying that I'm writing a smart contract and I want to create my own currency or my own token, and I'm saying there are 1 billion of this token. And if someone sends me 1 ether to my smart contract, he will receive an amount of 1,000 of my token. So there is this, how you say, this fraction that is fixing the amount of token that I can deliver to someone if he sends me 10 ethers, 0.1 ethers. So it's something specific of the smart contract. Yeah.
Sorry, we need to leave.
Oh, yeah, sure. You're right. Thank you. Huh? Okay. Well,
you mentioned utility token. I guess it's by opposition to a security token.
Yeah.
Could you say a word about security token and
Yeah.
an example of what is security token?
So, for example, the security tokens are tokens that are not used for their utility, but it's more a security. So you can stock them for more time because they will promise you that they will get more value. It's as simple as that. A security token.
Is there some example?
Frankly, I don't remember a security token right now. So,
is there any smart contract which is released and officially adopted somewhere? And
you have full of all the tokens that you see on the Ethereum platform are smart contracts. You're asking me if there are some companies that are trying to use smart contract. So you have them, but they are not on the Ethereum platform. For example, you have Barclays, the bank. So this bank used for 1 year almost, I think 1 year or more, a smart contract to deliver a finance transaction. But it's not on the Ethereum platform. It's something that they are creating by themselves. You have another company that is DCCT, that is a big finance investment fund. What they did in 2015, just right after the release of Ethereum, they were able to exchange 1.4 quadrillions of values in finance transactions, so in stocks or derivatives or all this kind of